guys, welcome back to Room 237, back with another review of Hulu's Into the Dark series. I'm just kind of going through them out of order because this is the 12th episode, so the final film of the first season, and it is Pure. Now, again, I don't know if I'm going to go through all of them or just kind of pick and choose some of them here and there. But this is the third one that I've reviewed, the fourth one that I've seen. And so far, this one has to be my favorite. This is the only one so far that hasn't really felt like an anthology story. I guess I could say Delivered kind of didn't, but The Body and Flesh and Blood definitely felt like anthology segments. This one is definitely worthy of its 80-something minute runtime, which is an issue I had with other episodes, that there wasn't enough to really stretch to feature length. This one has probably the most substance as far as themes and not really metaphors or allegories, but the themes and different things that it's looking at, and the most effective in how it executes those. I know some people probably don't like it because of the setting or because of its lack of scares. And even though it does sort of have like a supernatural, demonic aspect to it, this one is very effective in its sort of real-world horror. And normally these are not my kind of movies. I mean, I do really like cult films like, say, the original Wicker Man. I was not a fan of Midsommar, save for the cinematography and how it was filmed. I kind of got some Midsommar vibes from this, while I could say Midsommar was a much better made movie on a technical aspect. This one, I think, told the story better. So, this was directed by Hannah McPherson, who wrote this along with Paul Fisher and Paul Davis. She wrote the teleplay for it. And actually, I'll get to that in a bit. And it stars Jakara Smith, who did look familiar. She was in... I haven't seen... She was in Nosferatu, which was, I think, a show by Joe Hill. Also stars... McKaylee Miller, who was the blonde friend in Ma with Octavia Spencer. This is the second one I've seen with an actress from Ma. Scott Porter as the pastor, Annalisa Cochran, and Sierra Bravo. And this deals with... and this takes place during... Daughter's Day, or Father-Daughter's Day, which I guess is a holiday where daughters learn recognize and celebrate their worth. That's what the holiday's for. And this takes it into a very religious kind of way, very cult-like, but with a very conservatively Christian, fundamentally Christian type setting. So this movie does deal with, you can guess by the title, this deals with not just on a surface level, purity, abstinence, keeping your body pure, but that's all surface level stuff, like what the plot is telling. But it deals with themes about, women empowerment, choices of women, toxic masculinity. And I've said this before, films that take those kind of themes and elements that are usually written and or directed by a woman are always told better. They're less blunt, they're less in your face. It does feel like it's actually telling its story, and they're more effective. I mean, the French and Belgian film Raw, which I've reviewed and I very much enjoyed, that was written and directed by a woman. And that has a lot of these themes as well. Self-worth, self-acceptance, coming into a womanhood. when they're written and directed by male filmmakers, it just seems very out of place. It feels very forced. Now, I always use 2019 Black Christmas as an example, but that was directed by Sofia Takal, so that was directed by a woman. That's still an example of just how in your face some of these elements can be. And not only is this done in a very uh, effective and effectively scary, and with a satisfying ending, uh, I thought it was a decent movie. It is a slower burn than some of the other ones, but I like that it takes its time. It really has this dreadful, foreboding kind of atmosphere and pace. It is very methodical, which is juxtaposed nicely with its very, you know, uh, bright greens of the trees and the grass and the flowers, the blue skies, the sun, the white dresses. You know, it having that feeling of dread and not really paranoia, but dread and foreboding set to that kind of imagery, I always found very interesting. So it takes place at this sort of church camp or purity camp where fathers bring their daughters, and it's this weekend where the daughters pretty much sign this contract of abstinence and purity to their fathers, almost done in like a ceremony, like daughters are marrying their fathers. And I do know that in the 2000s, this was nothing I ever really had to experience in school, but a lot of religious schools and even speakers in public schools were talking about, you know, this sort of thing. There's even a speech where the pastor compares uh, girls who are pure and girls who have had sex to a piece of chewing gum. You know, when they're pure, they're a nice piece of gum that everyone wants, but once they're chewed, they're no good and nobody wants them. I guess that was an actual tactic that was used when all this was going on. And I always thought Purity rings was just like red plastic, but in this it kind of looks like an engagement ring. I don't know if that was just part of the plot, like just to kind of make it look more of, you know, give yourself over to me as your father. And this movie always kept me guessing. I kept wondering, like, okay, is this going to be, like, are they going to end up having to marry their fathers? Are they going to have to, you know, I thought it was going to go to the extreme, be like, do they have to lose their virginity to their fathers so that they always have it? Spoilers, it doesn't go that far, but it's still done in a way that is very realistic, which makes it all the more effective and very disturbing and unsettling. Now, the supernatural aspect, which is the only part I have a problem with, and not just because it's supernatural, but there is this spirit, and it very much does go into actual lore, mythology, whatever you want to call it. The pastor and the girls there, because there's Shay, our lead, which Shay is played by, I already forgot her name, Jakara Smith. She's there. Her mother had died a couple months ago. Never knew her biological father up until the death of her mother. He was found and took her in. But he has a daughter that he's raising that's her age, played by Jo. Named Jo, played by Kaylee Miller. And then there's two other girls in their cabin, Kellyanne and Lacey. Now, Lacey is the daughter of the pastor, played by Scott Porter. And Kellyanne is just kind of the girl that's really into this, but feels like her father's super domineering, making her watch her calories and having to wear what he wants. And, you know, that's also part of this, like how they have no say over even what they wear. They even have to have their dresses chosen They have to wear the underwear that matches that they pick. and, and I will say all the performances are well done, especially or also Pastor Seth, because he is very charismatic. He is very passionate. He does seem sort of like what you would find in like a youth group kind of pastor, but you can tell there's something sinister about him. And he talks about this demon named Lilith, which there's a lot of different things about her, like whether she's a vampire or a succubus or a fallen angel or a demon. But I guess in most instances, she was like the first wife of Adam, and something about how Adam didn't like how they were considered equals. So he came up with this false accusation that she was a whore. She was killed and damned, or maybe not killed, but she was damned, condemned, and now Lilith is kind of used as an example for the pastors and is whispered about by the girls. These four girls decide to do a sort of a summoning ritual of Lilith because Shay's half-sister Jo is very rebellious and is not into this at all, and she's kind of the voice of, you know, why can't we have choice over our bodies? Why is it not about what we want, and why can't we make our choices? She's really our voice for that aspect. And again, everyone does a good job. But throughout the film, after they do that ritual, Shay continuously sees this apparition of Lilith, who's like this redheaded, which it's always briefly, like she always just shows up briefly, then she's gone. But a lot of times, like when something bad happens, like, because a lot of other times it's, okay, the lights are flickering, or the pastor's a microphone has a lot of feedback and interrupts everything. And then when it shows Lilith again before she disappears, she has this giant, like, truth or dare grin that looks really silly. That's probably my only real gripe about the film, is that seems really silly compared to the seriousness of the rest of the movie. And there is this constant feeling of, you know, what is their angle? I mean, when girls are seen to have disobeyed or not shown up to what they were supposed to, it shows that they're taken into like this back office where the pastor and all the fathers go, and then the daughter comes out quiet and traumatized. And that's why I was kind of wondering, like, are they supposed to be pure to the world but not to them? And I was wondering where that was going to go. There's this sort of myth amongst the girls about this thing called the box, which is where naughty girls are put to prey. So I was thinking it was gonna be like Carrie's closet. And just, as the film goes on, Shay keeps seeing more and more of Lilith, and the sinister aspects of this group, this church, seems to unfold more. And it's very well done. It's very, you know, it does a good job at talking about women's rights, empowerment, choices, especially over, you know, their life and their bodies, without being overbearing or in your face or feeling like it's compensating or anything. All the performances are well done. I feel like this is one I actually have to get into spoilers with, because this is one that, you know, it's not straightforward like flesh and blood or the body or anything. So I'm gonna get into spoilers, but I really can recommend this just as a standalone movie, not just as part of Into the Dark. But, you know, if you liked, or if you like movies with messages like that that are actually well done, you know, if you like movies like Raw, this is definitely worth it. Or if you just think like creepy cult, uh, to the point where it's like a prison to the people that are involved, because that's also an aspect. It's like these girls can't escape, they can't go do what they want. If you like movies like The Wicker Man or Midsummer, then I can recommend it. The ending does go a little over the top, but it is very satisfying, especially seeing just how it goes. It's kind of a Silent Hill ending, if you really think about it. And I know the director, Hannah McPherson, she called this a reverse of possession movie, which does make sense. And I do agree with most, if not all, reviews that I've seen. The supernatural or demonic stuff in this movie can be hit or miss, give or take. But the real world stuff, everything about this church and what they're doing and what these girls are going through, is very effective and is definitely infinitely scarier than all the demonic stuff. So this is one that I can recommend, but I'm going to get into spoilers. So there's one point where like Joe goes missing, and there's someone that's tattling on all on these girls, and it's never clear as to who it is. Um, there's these boys nearby, either at a camp or just nearby, but uh, our four girls are always going to meet up and hang out with them. There's one named Gabe that Shay takes a liking to. They kind of start getting close, about to have sex, but then she stops. Well, Lilith stops it, but we see that Joe gives in and has sex with the one that she's talking to, and then she goes missing. And so, for like the last act of the film, you're kind of wondering what happened to her, what did they do to her, and it's all building up to this final ceremony, the father-daughter ceremony, where there's these written contracts where the daughters sign over pretty much their bodies, their purity to their fathers until their wedding day. Uh, like the fathers choose the dresses for them, and really make it all about them. The pastor Seth makes it seem like, talking about how his daughter Lacey is now pledging to him for the 10th year in a row. But we see Lacey is hiding something because she breaks down a few times during the film. Well, and by this point, Joe shows back up. And when she tells Shay that, oh, Dad knew about you your whole life. It wasn't just up until a few months ago. Like, he totally knew about you. That kind of sent Shay over the edge. Kind of about how, these men can kind of do whatever they want with their lives. And there's also talks about, why is it purity taught to boys? And the pastor goes on about like, well, there's different what's the word I'm looking for? Standards for boys. Boys aren't as easily tempted, or the world looks at boys differently. It's like you're the ones that we have to keep pure. Or even like Lacey gives like a speech about her future husband, and Joe's like, well, is your future husband going to be a virgin too? Like, is that something you're going to share, or does it not matter what he does? So when it finally comes to the signature signing, Shay can't sign it, and she goes up to the microphone and says, I can't sign it because I'm not a virgin. I lost my virginity before all this. She's really only doing this to impress her father because he still is very new in her life. So then, she's shunned. They bring out the box, which is just a cage, where they put her in it. The only way she can get out is to pray her way out, and they all shun her, call her a whore, and, that you mean the downfall of women and everything. Then that's when Lacey steps up and says, I failed your test too. Because all the boys that were hanging out with them and flirting with them and whatnot, they work for the pastors. And Gabe is, I guess, the pastor's son. So Lacey says that she failed. She never wanted to oppress God, just wanted to oppress her. And it shows that the pastor has a pistol, so she just grabs it, shoots herself. And this is when the reverse possession comes in. It becomes kind of the Silent Hill ending. Because Shay thinks, throughout the film, Shay thinks that Lilith is like following her and could be dangerous to her. But she's really just trying to use Shay as like a vessel so that she could come in and then do what she needs to do. And is really only making bad things happen to the church and the people involved. So when she's in the box, she prays, but she prays to Lilith, who then possesses her. And if you think this ending is silly, I get it. If you think it's over the top, I get it. But it worked for me. It worked for me more than all like the Truth or Dare smile stuff or the lights flickering and everything. But she's able to possess her. She's able to get out of the cage. And, you know, she can like freeze people like with her hands. And she can like go like this and they all drop to their knees. Then they all put their foreheads to the floor. And she'll keep like doing things with her arms that controls all them. So she's like, you know, don't tell us what to do. You have no control over us. This is, you know, it's our life. Pretty much saying it's our life, our bodies. You know, our life is our choice. You have no say over it. So then she starts saying, do what you're told. So she lifts her arm. They stand up. Well, first she keeps doing something. So it's like they keep bashing their head against the floor, which is very serious, but it made me think of Monty Python. Just, yeah, requiem. That's what it made me think of. So after they bash their head a bunch of times, she's like, stand up. Do what you're told. And like, then they stand up, they're levitated, she can like choke them. And then like that, their necks snap and they fall. And then they're pretty much led outside, and it ends with this great shot of them walking through the grassy field, then towards the camera, and it just ends. Now I know it was left ambiguous because possessed Shay mentioned something about going to war, about this toxic masculinity, I guess. So like when they walk off, are they going to war against the men of the world, or is it a clean slate and now they're going back to their lives knowing that they have full control over their lives? I know the director wanted that to be ambiguous, and I like that. So it's kind of that Silent Hill ending where the one that was wronged with the false accusation is able to get inside where they are and then punished. And it's the reverse possession because she's praying to be possessed. This one definitely has better cinematography than other ones I've seen. Like, parts that actually kind of made me go, wow, this is actually filmed really well. Specifically, the scenes of the father-daughter ball. The way the ball is filmed, it looks great. And yeah, it's definitely a slower pace, definitely more of a real-world horror. You know, it does build on just this insidious cult, essentially. I mean, it's this, like, fundamentalist Christian, but they act like a cult. And all the themes and messages that it tackles about, you know, women empowerment and women's choices and rights, I think it tackles very well in a very not over the top, in your face way. With one thing that was like Black Christmas is there are parts where Shay will see eyes of the fathers go black, or the pastor will be like oozing black stuff out of his mouth. I guess that's toxic masculinity as well, which Black Christmas kind of did that. Here it makes more sense. I thought the acting across the board was well done. I liked the four girls. I thought the pastor was believable. It was a very satisfying ending, like seeing them all get their punishment. And I also liked how it took this real world thing, especially something that's fairly modern. I mean, I'm not sure how long purity rings have been around, but it took a stab at the more modern era of it, all the way down to like the chewing gum comparison that I guess was used a lot, and the contracts. I guess these contracts are things that have actually been around. So, for me, this movie really worked. Shot well, acted well. It handled its themes and uh, messages at an entertaining level, a level that worked and was very effective, while still being sort of real world scary or at least upsetting at the same time. And I do like that the supernatural stuff kind of took a back seat. It was really just there for the occasional jump scare. The only issue I had was that truth or dare smile. And yeah, the finale kind of had its laughable moments, like the Monty Python head bashing. But I all thought it was effective. So, I mean, if you've looked into this film and thought it was just another woke film, it's nothing like Black Christmas. It handles it more effectively, maturely, and in a way that makes sense for the story without being overbearing and crammed down your throat. So far of Hulu's Into the Dark films, this one is my favorite. I think this is the best one. So we'll see what else they got. But yeah, if you stuck through the spoilers, I still do recommend it. I liked it more than I thought I would, and yeah, I think it's the best one. So stay tuned for more of Hulu's Into the Dark, and thank you for watching.